This is BMW's i3, their electric car. Now it comes in two forms. You can have it as a pure electric, or for those who suffer from range anxiety, you can have it fitted with a tiny petrol engine to extend the range. When it launched 2.5 years ago, it was the range that was most criticised. So BMW have addressed that issue with the new version and they've bumped up the capacity of the battery by about 50%. So is the i3 finally a car for more than just the city? With the traditional kidney grille, it may be instantly recognisable as a BMW, but the signs are clear that this is not in fact like any other car in their range. The wide windows, very short overhangs, a super compact stance and boxy edges all reveal its real purpose. This car is the ultimate urban warrior. The BMW i3 94AH replaces the 60AH model. While the battery dimensions remain unchanged, it now comes with more than a 50% extra range. This equals a promised range of 313 kilometres in everyday driving. Inside it's light and uncluttered. It's also free from many of the design constraints inherent with more conventional car designs, and as a result everything is distinctly futuristic and minimal. The gear selector is found on the steering column and there's also no physical key, just a starter button. Space in the front is good, but there's only room for two in the back and legroom is quite restrictive. The headroom is good though, plus the rear hinge doors and no B-pillar means it's simple to get in and out of. It's not, however, the most practical car. The boot measures just 260 litres, so that's less than you'll get in the back of a Ford Fiesta or a Renault Clio. The i3 is barely 4 metres, but it's deceptively big inside. It feels much roomier and spacious than you would imagine. All the glass and light adds to that. You also sit up very high, so the visibility is really good. On the road it feels very light as well, and that's due to the amount of carbon fibre that's used in it. Now, as I mentioned previously, there's two different versions. This is the all-electric version. It goes from 0 to 100 in 7.3 seconds, which is reasonable enough, and it has a 170 bhp and 250 newton meters of torque. Now, as with all electric cars, that torque is instantly available the minute you put your foot on the accelerator. Also, like electric cars, it's very smooth and very quiet on the road. It's actually a really fun car to drive. The steering is very well weighted, it's rear wheel drive and it handles the road very nicely. Now, it's not what you'd call sporty, but electric cars are not for sporty or for performance, but it is a very nice fun car to drive. In terms of charging, BMW have a dedicated charger, an iWall box, and you will charge this car in about 3 hours. Now, if you're relying on a standard 3-pin plug, it's going to take you about 10 or 11 hours. In terms of price, if you do an average of about 300 kilometres a week, BMW reckon it'll cost you about €8. But the big consideration with electric cars is the range and the price. Now, in terms of the range, there's two things that matter in this car, is how you drive it and which mode you use. As with the previous versions, there's a choice of 3 driving modes. Comfort, which allows the motor its maximum 170 bhp and 250 newton meters of torque. Eco Pro sets a maximum speed of 130 kilometres and makes everything more efficient. Select Eco Pro Plus and the climate control is switched off and the speed limited to a max of 90 kilometres per hour. Now, for the last few days I've driven this car in comfort and I really have made no compromise that it's an electric car. I've driven it exactly as I would drive a normal car. BMW estimate that you will get a maximum range of about 313 kilometres. I would say 160 kilometres is closer to that. Now, that's not driving it in Eco Pro, that's purely driving it in comfort, and as I said, not making any compromises, so that is still a very good range. Price, however, is an issue. The price of the all-electric BMW i3 is $36,300. Now, if you opt for the range extended version, it's $43,330. Considering this is a car roughly the same size as a Ford Fiesta, that's quite a lot to pay. When you weigh up the pros and cons of electric car ownership, the cons are certainly diminishing, but range and price is still an issue, so electric car ownership is still not viable for everyone. The increased battery has made this car so much more useful. It's much more flexible, but you still have to plan your journeys around the range, so it still doesn't offer the convenience of a conventional car. Then there's the issue of the price, but all of that aside, the i3 is a really incredibly clever car. It's appealing and it's very modern, and it's a very fun way to get from A to B. Geraldine Herbert for Independent.ie.